Well, hello plant lovers, it is Matthew in Melbourne. Welcome to my channel and thank you for finding me in the crowded world of YouTube orchid videos. If you're interested, I try to grow cold, cool, intermediate orchids here in Melbourne, Australia, either outdoors or indoors, or I don't bother. So if that sounds like your bag, do hit subscribe. I post every week and I am a struggling amateur. And perhaps just stressing the amateur nature of my orchid growing adventures, today a very special treat. I'm lucky enough to belong to the Orchid Species Society of Victoria, and I always say one of the best things you can do to learn more about how and what to grow in your particular area, try and find an orchid club that's near you. And in Melbourne, we're very lucky. There's lots throughout the suburbs, so really wherever you are, you should be able to find one within a reasonable distance. And hopefully wherever you are in the world too, you'll find some orchid groups. Now it's a great place to find people who are in the same place as you trying to grow orchids, so you can learn what they're growing well, what you should try and grow, and which is perhaps more important, and which is one of my secret reasons for actually joining clubs, is it's a great place to buy plants, because most of these organizations will have a sale a few times a year or an auction to raise funds, or actually at each meeting you might even have a raffle or people selling plants at each meeting. So the best way to find unusual plants, join a club. So I did, and I was very lucky that one of the members of this particular club is a man called Michael Coker, and he is the most amazing orchid grower. Now, he's not a commercial grower, but he is really a specialist. He spends a lot of time and energy furthering his knowledge of orchids. So he does grow species, but he also grows hybrid orchids of just about every type imaginable, from cooler to warmer. And he has several shade houses on his property, sort of heated to different temperatures, so he can grow a range of orchids. Now, I have no heating and he only has heating, so slightly different growing conditions, but we certainly grow some similar plants. Now, I have been asking Michael for a while if I could come along and make a video about a few things that were just bugging me that I could never get the hang of, I guess, in terms of growing. And he very kindly said yes. And one of those plants is Phragmipedium. Now, I can grow Phragmipedium, and I have got a Repotting, both of which I'll drop in pictures. And Phragmipediums took me a while to understand how to grow in my conditions. And of course, Ed's orchids, which I'll link below. Ed is really the king of both Paphs and Frags, but he grows in northern England. So again, different conditions to me. So I was really keen to try and find someone in Melbourne, in southern Australia, so very different climate, who grows Frags to give me some hints, because really the only ones I've ever had plant lovers I've killed, they were seedlings and they didn't make it to their first year. So without further ado, let's pop over to Michael's amazing orchid house and get his tips on how to grow Phragmipediums in Melbourne, Australia. Well, hello and welcome to Michael, the president of the Orchid Society's Council of Victoria.
Absolutely.
As far up the food chain I can get in terms of orchid expertise. Thank you for your time. Today, Michael, Phragmipediums.
Yes.
My heart already sings. I don't know where to begin. I've actually only killed one, I think.
How many have you had?
Oh, only one.
Okay.
But I thought it was doing well, then it didn't. So this is a whole sort of genre of orchids that I just haven't now gone near, because I feel that they're too tricky and too difficult. I'm looking at this bench of amazing plants and thinking, well, maybe there's secrets that you can share.
There certainly are. I'm a huge fan of Phragmipediums. Phragmipediums are the American slipper orchids, and they come naturally from Central and down into South America. There's only about 26, 27 species, so there's not a lot of them around. And the ones that they initially found had big, long, dangly petals. They can have petals up to 1 metre long.
Yeah.
And then subsequent to those being used in hybridizing, they found new species. I think there was Schlimii in 1921. The most significant one, Phragmipedium bessiae, I can show you,
was quite recent.
1981, I think it was taxonomically described.
And the thing about that is it's such a bright colour. How could anyone not have noticed it?
Well, the story is that they saw them across a valley and they were bright orange things, and they assumed they were begonias, so nobody went to look at them.
Oh.
And eventually when they did, they found Phragmipediums.
Yeah, we'll show a picture, because it is the most amazing thing, and I think that's what I killed.
Oh. Not the easiest one to start with.
Okay, thank you. I feel redeemed. So we've started at the beginning. So Phragmipedium, which is related, but not. I mean, the flowers often look very similar.
They do indeed. They have the distinctive pouch, hence the lady slipper orchids, as people call them.
But they're Asiatic.
Yes.
And is it fair to say completely or quite different care required?
I would say fairly similar care, actually.
Okay.
There's a little bit of variation between Paphiopedilums, as there is between Phragmipediums, but roughly the same. You can see they're growing next to each other in this house here, so the conditions are fairly similar.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, actually, they're just, your paths are on the other side of the same
And
bed.
hanging up here.
Oh, look behind you, Matthew. Oh my goodness. I'll show you this in bloom, a multi-flowered example going gangbusters.
Absolutely.
Okay, so there's the first thing then. They can grow in the same position. So that's the same light and the same temperature.
Yes.
Okay. Next thing. So the other thing that I guess, understood about frags is that they are more of a sort of a running water or a stream. Obviously, there's many species, but
Yes.
a stream-side plant. So all of yours seem to be in exactly the same condition, the same pots, the same medium. So
Yes.
is that a myth?
No, that's not a myth at all. In fact, it's very true that many of the Phragmipediums and many of the ones that I grow, that's got a lot of Phragmipedium cavachii in it, being the big purple flowered one, and Bessiae being the orange one. They come from areas which are ordinarily fairly limestone related, with running water over the top of them.
Right.
So that tells you two things. One, it tells you that they really do like lots of additional water.
I'm going to try and hold one up while you're chatting.
Okay.
Yes. I'm gonna
And the
bring
other
it to
thing,
front.
being in a limestone type area, is that they will require higher pH. And you will see on the leaves of these, if that's being picked up there,
Yeah.
that they're a bit chalky, because I like to wash them through with dolomite lime
Right.
dissolved into water at least every fortnight. And that then really raises the pH.
Every fortnight. Okay. So if ever I treat anything with dolomite lime, I do it once a season, like in spring.
These
Okay.
absolutely love it. And of course, they do like lots and lots of water, not dolomite lime every time, but I ideally would water my frags in summer every single day, and in winter probably 3 times a week. But then the mix starts to break down, which of course, if they like high pH, mix breaking down is a disaster, and the lime helps counter that.
Okay. So let's backtrack. With the dolomite lime, how are you diluting it? How do you apply it?
I buy, I think it's a hydrangea pinker, just a Yates variety is what I use. It already comes in a liquid form, and you put about 40 mils per watering can or something like that,
So
and then you just hose it on.
Capful.
Yeah, thereabouts.
So it's a
thereabouts.
hydrangea colorant you use?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's super easy. I've never thought of that. My goodness. You see, so many lights going off. This is just extraordinary. Okay, so watering, yes.
Yes.
In warmer weather, every day.
Yes.
And your dolomite lime once every 2 weeks?
Yes.
Okay. Next step then is the mix that you've used. You alluded to it breaking down. All of these are in the same mix?
Yes, they are.
And what is that?
It's the usual mix I use for mature plants is about 6 parts of bark.
Yeah.
For a mature plant, I'd use sort of half of that being 6 to 9 millimeter orchiata bark, the other half probably 9 to 12 orchiata. So it's got a difference in size. And coupled with that, the little hydroponic clay balls. Again, the theory there being that if you've got round things and flat things, you will always find air pockets within the mix. And that is good for allowing aeration as the water soaks through. The water goes through quicker and sucks fresh air in after it. And I find it's a really successful mix.
Right. Okay, there's the potting. What about the growth cycle of the plant? So I can see on this one that there is a growth point that obviously, well, several that have obviously died and you've trimmed and you've got a new growth coming. So is that how the plant perpetuates itself, one growth at a time, or can you get multiple new growths?
You can get multiple new growths. That's not as common. And this one here, we can see the new growth on the side there coming away. You'll see it's
Oh, yeah.
almost lifted itself up out of the pot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
frags do that.
Yeah.
And when I repot them, I then like to lower the plant to make sure that where the roots are coming out from the growth, that is actually under slightly the level of the mix.
Right. So
Because at the
this-
moment it's well above it.
So when you repot this one, so you can see the new growth there, you will repot it so that the soil line is about there.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So then I presume the growth, the fan matures and then blooms.
Yes.
In an ideal world. How long would that take? Is that an annual cycle?
Roughly, I find that Phragmipediums for me will flower as soon as the new growth matures. So there's not particularly a season. At any one time here, I'd probably have 25 at least flowering frags throughout the entire year.
Right, so-
because they've just matured at that particular time.
Oh, interesting. Is that the same in the wild?
I would be surprised if it wasn't, but I'm not entirely sure.
That's very interesting. So you're not going to get them in spring or in autumn at any time of the year.
Whenever they're happy and they're mature.
Like the best of us.
Another couple of points to note about this one, though, Matthew, as you can see.
I was going to say, yes, what are we actually looking at?
That is Eric Young by Bessier, which has a name that I don't remember.
Right.
But the interesting thing about these, you can see it's got 2 flowers on the stem.
Yeah.
And the stem has actually branched.
Yeah.
So it's branched at that point just down here.
Yeah.
So this one has produced flowers, as has this. So not only are you getting multiple flowers on the stem, which is not like most Paphiopedilums, unless it's a multifloral or a cochlepetalum style, but they're also sequential. So you can see this is the flower here.
Yeah.
There's another little bud coming there. Likewise up the top there. And I think the most I've ever had on one stem on a Phragmipedium was 18 flowers progressively. And that's about 1 per month. So you've got the same plant flowering for a year and a half.
Wow. Now, is that sequential blooming characteristic across all of the Phragmipediums? I mean, some might just bloom 1 flower at a time, but are they all sequential?
I think large plants, you're going to find most of them are sequential.
Ah.
Small plants, you might only get 1, maybe 2 flowers per stem. But
Yeah.
as your plant gets bigger, you've got more growth. So you've got more stems, branching stems, and sequential flowering. They really do reward you.
Now, you mentioned the mix breaking down, and because it's being watered so constantly, that's going to happen relatively quickly. How often would you repot?
In an ideal world, every 6 months I'd repot.
Oh, that's
I find it is. And I find when I do that, they get a real growth spurt because they've got nice fresh mix and they really like it. But bearing in mind the fact I've got far too many of them and not enough time,
Let's not say that.
it might be
You've got a healthy collection.
it might be every year. So I'll generally devote an entire weekend and get this bench basically done.
Yeah. Now, we have made an epic deflasking video, which I'll link. Do you deflask frags? Are they
Yes.
easy, hard? Where do they sit on the spectrum?
On the spectrum, they're hard. They are
Right.
really fussy out of flask. I find particularly species like Bessier, Cavachii, Schlimmii, Sargentianum, those are on the difficult end of deflasking.
Right.
And you've really got to keep your water up to them because, again, they love water.
Not for the faint-hearted. So would you suggest, and because, I think mine was actually a relatively recently potted deflask plant. It was very small, and I obviously just went completely wrong with it. Do you think someone like me would be much better off buying a mature plant, a flowering size plant?
Yes, I do. Absolutely.
Okay.
And also, I'd suggest start with a hybrid because hybrids
Yes.
have what's called hybrid vigor.
Yep.
And hybrids are generally stronger, more robust,
Such as this one.
sturdier, and less susceptible to problems.
Well, talking problems, what problems do you encounter here? Any?
Probably the only thing really in this growing house here are little bugs. And in fact, I can see a very good example there. If I pull that one up. This plant here, you'll be able to see that leaf there has
it's been
basically
munched.
been munched badly. There it is
Or
there.
is that a slug or a snail?
That will be probably a caterpillar. It might be a slug or a snail, but occasionally moths get in here. So that leaf's a disaster. That's been nibbled a bit as well.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of a problem. Occasionally scale and sometimes mealybugs as well.
So pretty standard.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Nothing outrageous.
Nothing in particular gets these.
So quick conversation then about temperature and light. So all of your growing spaces are heated, so particularly in winter.
Yes, yes.
So you don't, what would the minimum temperature be that these plants are going to thrive in?
What I've found is that these new sort of micropetalum style, which is Bessier, Cavachii, Schlimmii, etc.,
Yeah.
they won't like it as cool as some of the dangly petal ones. Dangly petal ones, 5 or 6 minimum.
Degree centigrade. I'll put the
Yes,
Fahrenheit in.
Lovely. Whereas these style, the more colourful style, they really don't particularly like it below about 8 to 10 Celsius. You can occasionally get them a little cooler than that, but if you're getting them cool, you've got to keep them drier.
Right.
And again, they don't like being dry, so there's your trade-off.
It's a lose-lose.
Well, hopefully you find a happy balance.
Yeah. And then light. So this is, I think the amazing thing about this house is the variety of orchids you've got given basically the same light conditions.
Yes.
You've got Masdevallia, Australian native dendrobiums, Paphiopedilums, Phragmipediums, and myriad other things. So what's your thoughts about light?
I think ordinarily orchids like more light than many people give them. And
Yeah.
quite often, one of the reasons for a plant not flowering is it didn't get enough light. So this, I've got, I think about 2 layers of 50% shade on this house, and also another retractable screen, which for really hot days can add another layer. But I must say, I've not used that for 3 years. So I like to give them lots and lots of light.
Yeah.
With these ones, the frags here are a little bit shaded. You can see there are hanging plants as well, which are blocking a little bit of the light. Because I think maybe a little bit lighter than certainly slippers, which are very happy with lots of light, particularly multiflorals. So generally just ordinary conditions. And as you say, there would be, I think, 120 different genera in this house. And you just got to find the right spot for them.
Yeah. Anything else we need to cover?
Probably to let you know what I'm trialing at the moment
Yeah.
is the actual type of pot to use.
Oh, okay. So this
These
is a
pots
standard
here,
plastic pot. Yeah.
standard plastic pot, lots of drainage as well. You're
Yes.
watering them that often.
Yes.
You've got to make sure that the water can come out.
Yeah.
But because Phragmipediums like a lot of water, I'm trialing at the moment what we call here ANOVA pots. I think that's a brand, not an actual style. But in the bottom of the pot, if you're looking at it, it's got one little hole right in the middle, but it has a flange on it as well, which means there's always a little, say, half-centimetre pool of water in the bottom of
In
the
the
pot.
bottom. Now, in most orchids, that would be a negative, wouldn't it?
With most it would.
Soggy bottom, medium around the roots.
But remember, even though there's a pool of water there, you're watering them so often,
So
you're
it's
effectively flushing it.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. Well, Mr. Coker, thank you. Phragmipedium specialist. Can I say that? Well, I just did.
You can. Probably,
But
yes.
look at this. The plants are absolutely wonderful. I'm inspired to try again. I think I was just too cautious.
Possibly so.
I think I did many things wrong, Michael. And I'm going to try again. Thank you once again for your time. I will link Michael's eBay moniker below, because occasionally you do sell some of the things that you've got multiples of.
And often Phragmipediums.
And often Phragmipedium. So if you're in Australia, you might strike it lucky. Michael, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Well, there you go. I really now feel confident that I can give it a go. Now, the thing that Michael reminded me, which we didn't actually include in the video, which is unfortunate, is that he does not use tap water for his Phragmipediums in Melbourne. He uses distilled water. You can also use rainwater, so bear that in mind. And I can't believe he just uses that hydrangea colouring fluid to maintain the pH level of the soil. What a great solution, and so easy. I'm going to do that. Well, firstly, I've got to get myself a new Phragmipedium. I might just have to watch his eBay channel. Now, I'll put that below. And if you're in Australia, you can certainly have a look. Now, just a reminder that no one in Australia can ship live plants outside of the country. So don't even try if you're outside of Australia. But many, many thanks to Michael for his time and energy. Now, I'm hopefully going to make a few videos with him if he has the time. It's very generous of him to share his knowledge. Now, Michael is the president of the Orchid Society's Council of Victoria. So what he doesn't know about orchids, I think, is kind of not worth knowing. And I'll put a link to that below. And wherever you are in the world, have a look at that site, because there's a whole list of resources and amazing articles by local growers across all manner of different types of orchids and issues about growing them and propagating them and repotting them and what you can and can't grow and what needs heat and what doesn't. I found it an amazing resource of essays by people who have kind of gone the hard yards in terms of figuring out how and what to grow in this climate. So Michael, many, many thanks. I'm sure everyone has loved your Phragmipedium epic, as have I, and I am now determined to find myself one and give it distilled water and regular dosing of dolomite lime. Now, if you want to see what I'm doing next week, you'll have to hit subscribe. And as I said, I will hopefully go and visit Michael a few times. So there might be a few videos over the next few weeks if we're lucky and he generously has the time. So plant lovers, hit subscribe to find out what's going on next week. And I look forward to seeing you then.